Visual Studio Code currently dominates the industry. In 2025, nearly 76% of all developers reported using it as their primary tool. However, looking specifically at enterprise Java developers, the numbers flip. In that specialized environment, JetBrains hold an 84% share. This gap exists due to a specific trade-off: managing your own time versus your hardware's performance. We map this choice on two axes. Vertical is configuration burden, horizontal is system demand. VS Code sits here. Low resources, high configuration. It's a lightweight editor you assemble yourself. JetBrains is the inverse. It arrives fully configured, but demands significant computing power and licensing. Choosing the wrong tool leads directly to hours troubleshooting JSON files or waiting for a throttled CPU to recover from a system freeze. VS Code's core architecture isolates the main user interface from the extension host, where plugins actually run. Because the editor doesn't wait for plugins, it starts instantly. You can begin typing while language services load in the background, keeping the environment fast and focused. The trade-off is that responsibility for the environment shifts to you. To get true IDE features, you manually find, install, and troubleshoot third-party plugins. Basic tasks like attaching a debugger often require you to manually write and edit launch.json files just to execute code. If you try to force VS Code to act like a full IDE by installing dozens of extensions, you lose the speed. Without a unified architecture, these plugins conflict, eventually bogging down the UI. Developers seeking privacy can use VS Codium to remove Microsoft's telemetry, though this means losing access to proprietary tools like GitHub Copilot. Ultimately, VS Code's free price tag hides a maintenance cost paid with your own setup time. JetBrains uses the opposite philosophy. It is an out-of-the-box engine powered by the Program Structure Interface, or PSI, to handle the heavy lifting. Instead of simple text matching, the PSI builds a semantic model of your entire codebase. It understands the logic and relationships between every file. This deep understanding allows for project-wide refactoring that actually works. You can rename a class across thousands of files, and the IDE handles the dependencies automatically. Because the tools are built in, you don't spend time on configuration. Run scripts, debuggers, and profilers work the moment you open the project. But building that semantic model requires a heavy computational investment. Opening a large repository will saturate your CPU. On older hardware, this can freeze your productivity until the background indexing process finally finishes. JetBrains also expects you to work within its specific project structures, which can be difficult to customize if your workflow deviates. You trade your machine's resources and a licensing fee for a tool that automates the heavy lifting of project management. When you move from a single machine to standardizing a 50-person engineering team, the economics change. Standardizing on VS Code looks efficient on paper. There are no licensing fees, and the onboarding process for new hires is relatively fast. The hidden risk here is tooling fragmentation. When developers manage plugins, environments drift. A bug on one machine might be impossible to reproduce on another, simply because of a minor extension version mismatch. Contrast this with an enterprise license for JetBrains Ultimate across the entire team. This provides unified, pre-configured tooling for everyone, including built-in compliance features like the package checker for dependency security. At this scale, the decision is a calculation of whether annual licenses cost less than engineering hours lost to troubleshooting fragmented development environments. To find your ideal setup, identify your primary bottleneck. Is your work constrained by hardware speed and budget, or by the sheer complexity and scale of your codebase? If you are a beginner, work in a bootstrap startup, or are a polyglot frequently switching between different languages, Visual Studio Code is the logical choice. You save on hardware and licensing costs, but must be willing to maintain the environment yourself. If you are an enterprise developer, a Java or Kotlin specialist, or responsible for maintaining a large monolith, then you should choose JetBrains. It requires an upfront investment in RAM and paid licenses, but it removes the friction of manual configuration. The rule of thumb is simple. If you spend more time configuring tasks than writing code, pay for the IDE. If your IDE takes longer to index than it takes to drink your coffee, it is time to move to an editor.